Weather manipulation is happening all around us. At one time, the idea that humans could influence storms, rainfall, or snowfall was dismissed as conspiracy. Today, that conversation has changed. I'm Abby Trippett with Charisma Media, and what was once mocked is now openly discussed, funded, and used. Cloud seeding is documented. It's operational, and it's expanding across industries and regions. From ski resorts using silver iodide to increase snowfall, to growing partnerships between private companies and state agencies, this is no longer theoretical technology. And that raises a serious question. If private industries can influence weather for economic survival, who else has access to this technology, and how else could it be used? Because weather controls food, water, migration, and stability. And history shows us that once a technology exists, it rarely stays limited to one purpose. Scripture tells us God has always held authority over the natural world. So when humanity begins attempting to control what was once seen as God-governed territory, it forces us to ask deeper spiritual questions. Jesus warned in Matthew 24 that the last days would be marked by increasing global instability, famines, disasters, and shaking across the earth. Not every disaster is man-made, but if human interference is possible, it adds a sobering layer to how those warnings could unfold. And this is where discernment matters, because the Bible also warns of a future marked by increasing control, deception, and systems that tighten around the world. Today, we're going to look at a video featuring Troy Brewer and Alan Didio, where they discuss what may be happening behind the scenes and what it means from a natural and spiritual perspective. Let's watch.
This last year, on July the 4th, prophetically, it happened on July the 4th, there was a storm that happened here in Central Texas that it's typically known as the Kerrville flood, but it flooded a whole lot more than just Kerrville. And it was a proven fact that they seeded the clouds, and that Central and North Texas was heavily seeded with all kinds of chemicals and weather modification. It is a proven fact. It is not.
I remember when this happened, and I remember at first seeing news reports about how cloud seeding didn't happen, how it wasn't possible. And then as things came out later on, it turns out that there was a private company just a few days right beforehand that was doing cloud seeding. And they said, well, but it shouldn't have it shouldn't have been a part of this. So I remember exactly what he's talking about. And the media was very quick to first say, no, cloud seeding isn't part of this. And it turns out there had just been some cloud seeding right beforehand.
Not a conspiracy theory. And guys like Sean Ryan had the guy on there, and he sat there cold. I'm talking about stone cold. And just so, yes, we do this, but it doesn't really change anything. Then why do you do that? And what's real is a storm blew up. As many as 20 inches of rain fell in a couple of hours. And it was the worst thing that we'd ever seen. It swept away children, Christian children. It swept away families, and off it went.
I think that's an important thing to look at here. We're not just talking about weather manipulation because it's a fun topic, but because it actually could affect people. If we have the ability to interfere with God's natural design of things, and we're trying to influence those things, it has real implications for real people who have real lives. And the Kerrville storm was a huge one, and it ripped apart so many people. I remember seeing those videos of children coming back from that summer camp, singing hymns. And it was one of the most heartbreaking things possible to just know that so many children were lost in that. So if cloud seeding in any way, shape, or form was part of it, if any way, shape, or form was part of that, it is so sad to think that human beings could have had a part in doing that, a part in doing something that was so heinous and manipulative.
Open Door Church spent over $500,000 in the assistance of helping people in Central Texas, and we're still having to help people there. Pastor Allen, you guys had a hurricane that came into Florida. It was a level 1, and then it hit land, and instead of diminishing, it goes off into South Carolina, into North Carolina, and into Tennessee. And what did it do?
Never before have we seen anything like this. We had church members who their business in the mountains of North Carolina, their business was under 17 feet of water. We've never seen a hurricane hit land, then gain energy and go further across the United States. So we as believers have got to understand what's going on, because we've got to make sure our elected representatives, we'll talk about this later, we're going to show a clip of a congressional.
Yeah, I know I know a little bit about hurricanes. I've experienced a few of them, and I don't think I've ever experienced a hurricane that got stronger as it got onto land versus being over the water. So what they're talking about here, when that storm came up and just devastated the inward part of those states, it was something that no one has ever seen. It was unfathomable what happened there. I had my own family members sending me images of things that took place there that they've never been wrecked by a hurricane, living in the inward parts there. So I can say that it is really unusual to see weather start destroying things in places that you didn't expect it to. You don't expect a hurricane when you live in the western part of North Carolina or in the western part of Virginia. That doesn't really happen because you're blocked in by mountains. So I remember exactly what they're talking about here, and it was unlike anything that we've ever seen here.
Hearing where they're saying we need to rein this in. Enough is enough. The United States population needs to be aware of this. The books need to be opened, and we need to make sure we're controlling it. Even Florida, if I'm not mistaken, Pastor Troy, banned weather modification recently. Well, if it's not going on, why is the state of Florida banning it?
He makes a good point. If something's not happening, why do you need to ban it? If something isn't going on, why do you have to have a law against it? That typically points to something saying it is going on, that there is something in the shadows that is happening right here. So I think he's making a good point here.
Here's something else too that I would say. Not only has it been banned, it's still continuing.
Well, we live there.
Yeah.
They have hotlines you can send pictures in, but it's still going on.
It's still going on.
It's an illusion, I think, of giving people the illusion that they're taking care of it, but there's no recourse. We're not seeing any difference.
Okay. All right. So Pastor Allen, I'm going to throw this over to you. Let's talk about it.
I think we have a clip that may go along these lines. Cloud seeding in Texas. If we can pull that up, we're going to watch that for a minute, and then we're going to talk about it.
And finally tonight, in these confusing times, you might have seen posts or videos connecting cloud seeding to what is happening in Texas. And then earlier tonight, the CEO of a weather modification company confirmed that planes in Texas did release silver iode into the atmosphere 2 days before the floods. But he also explained why he says scientifically it does not mean that the two events are connected.
You have to wonder here if that is being said just because this person is trying to cover themselves legally and not wanting to take any repercussions of something that happened that was destructive. Just a thought.
Watch this.
We're talking about like sub-centimeter amounts of precipitation, be it in snow or rain from every event, which in aggregate can mean hundreds of acre feet, which is very consequential for farmers and ecosystems, but cannot come close to causing flooding unto itself.
So the CEO of Rainmaker Technology, we did an article on this earlier this week on mycharisma.com, but this same business right here, they are actually receiving funds from the state of Utah right now to help produce snow. So this isn't a one-time thing. They are trying to cloud seed everywhere, quite frankly, and I don't know if there's other businesses like this that we're going to see rising up, because ski resorts are really using cloud seeding right now as a way to get through droughts in the western part of the United States right now.
And NBC News climate reporter Chase Kane joins us now. Chase, any conspiracy always starts with like a thread of truth here. Can you explain the science?
The ability to manipulate weather has been a weapon for a very long time. Let's take a look at what Operation Popeye was during the Vietnam War.
A little over a decade later, the U.S. military conducted experiments to bring weather to the battlefield.
To bring weather to the battlefield. Think about how weather affects the conditions of everything you do, including fighting in wars, including how you bring supplies to other nations, including how you would come in tactically into different places. Weather makes up more of our life than we tend to think about.
Over 1966. The Vietnam War is in full swing. U.S. military scientists are devising a way to slow down enemy forces using the weather.
U.S. had gone from advisor status to in-field combat status, and we're not doing well. As a result of not being able to make progress on the ground, the U.S. went to bringing the battle into the atmosphere above the battlefield.
The Air Force employed a groundbreaking military directive called.
So looking at this entire clip, we have to think about the fact that this has been going on for decades. People have been denying it, but it has already been established in our country. It's already being used for war. It's already being used for private entities and their own excursions. So what else could it be used for next?
Project Popeye.
Project Popeye was a weather modification program that involved cloud seeding. And the idea was to produce or exaggerate the monsoon rains that are traditional in that region.
It's Luciferian, it's globalist, it's weaponized, and
it is Luciferian, it is globalist, and it is weaponized. As we just saw, cloud seeding is being used to create war, to be a part of war. It is something that we are seeing very clearly right in front of our eyes. If we are using weather to manipulate things, we are playing directly into end times prophecy about talking about the end and how destruction will come and how weather is going to increase, natural disaster is going to increase. So we're playing right into it without even realizing it. So it is Luciferian, and it does have a different agenda to it, a negative one.
The people of God that love freedom, the people of God that love Jesus, the people of God that love their families, we need to openly speak against this and go, we see it, we recognize it, and we're not going to stand for it. We're not just going to be quiet as you guys dump all these chemicals upon us in Jesus' name.
That is a very good point. It's not just about what weather can be used for, but also what we are breathing in, what kinds of particles we are taking in. And so this is the moment that whether you have known Jesus your whole life or whether you barely know him at all, we cannot stay silent about this topic anymore, because this is one that affects all of us. It is one that affects how we will go about life, and it affects what is coming next.